Hey, Pastor Russ here with another episode of Small Church. I'm here with Glenn Meshko. Glenn is actually a guy that I went to college with, and we were actually good friends. And actually, we played basketball. That's kind of funny. If we call it that, we played basketball in college together. Dude, we were in a rap group together, Rapapella in the house. We did that. Go look that up, man. We had all kinds of hits. But anyways, we went to Bible college together, and Glenn was actually in my wedding as well. And so we've just recently reconnected. You know how over the years you just kind of you go your separate ways in ministry and all that. Glenn, you've been in ministry 25 years or more. So have I. So 50 years of ministry between us. We both started in little small country churches in Iowa. Now we're both in Texas, and Glenn reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and said, "Hey, let's get together. Let's hang out. Let's do some accountability stuff. Let's talk ministry. Let's help each other out." And so we're right now in the parking lot of the famous Blue Bonnet Cafe in Marble Falls. We had Marble Falls, Texas. We just had some pie, and it was good stuff. But today's episode of Small Church, we want to talk a little bit about accountability, about pastors meeting together, how important that is for fellowship. Iron sharpens iron. We all know that scripture, so I'm not going to, pull a bunch of scripture into this right now, because we know there's scripture about accountability. We know there's scripture about iron sharpens iron and all of that. So Glenn, what really pulled you into contacting me other than just our friendship? I know you said part of it was, hey, we haven't connected for a while, we need to connect. But you told me a little bit about your pastor saying, hey, you need somebody in your life.
So like you said, I've been doing youth ministry for about 25 years. And of course, I've had accountability partners, and they're important, and they help me grow. And hopefully, I help them grow as well. But I started a new church, and so you just kind of go through the process of being new and talking to the pastor there. And he said, one of the things that, he's kind of going down the checklist, one of the things you need to have is someone that you're accountable with. And I'm like, yeah, of course, that's really important. But I started really thinking about that and praying about it. And I think it's important to be accountable to the people that are in your context, the town that you're serving, maybe the denomination that you're in. That's important. But also, it's good to connect or reconnect and be accountable with people that you have known in the past. And so believers that have helped encourage you in your faith and all that, but to reconnect. And also because Pastor Russ is in a different denomination as me, I think it's good to be able to talk about the different obstacles and the different things that are positive as well, to be able to encourage each other. So I think reconnecting to the past is really important, because it helps you to kind of go back to where you were and build on what God has presented you as far as relationships.
Back to the roots.
The roots.
The roots, that's right. So we're going to do a quick rap for you. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to rap for you. Back in the day, you should have seen the outfits we wore and everything else. But that's a different day, a different time, a different episode. But anyways, so Glenn, what's really cool is we sat, we met, we talked about family, we talked about ministry, how we do things, why we do things. But sometimes, ministry can become lonely. We feel like people don't really understand, and even sometimes ministry can be hurtful. And so we need somebody to talk to, don't we? We need that fellowship.
We do. And so there are times when we feel isolated, and sometimes it's when you're in a certain context, you may not feel comfortable, talking to someone about it because of familiarity, right?
Yeah.
So when you have someone outside the context in which you can trust, is really important. And but also though too, if you have a history with someone, they're more comfortable, I think, especially when you're younger, I think, and that's what's exciting about us talking. We have a history with each other, so you could say, hey, you know what? Is that a good idea? Or, they feel more comfortable holding you accountable because of that history.
Yeah, so in our case, really, over the past 20 years or so, we haven't been very well connected at all. But it's like, once we've connected, it's like we've not missed a
Boom.
beat.
Yeah.
Here we are again. And so I really want to let people know out there, other pastors, and especially you guys in small churches, find somebody. It may be somebody you went to college with. It may be somebody from your past history. It may be somebody in your town. Because again, back to that idea of that sometimes it's lonely in ministry, because sometimes even when you're going through things that are tough and difficult, you don't want to share that with your wife either, because
Right.
you don't want to pull her down. You don't want her to be involved in some of the negative that might be in ministry. And I don't take this wrong, because I believe most of ministry is positive. I think a lot of it's what we make out of it. But yeah, there's times we need somebody. And especially if you're in a church that doesn't have staff, or I think even in Glenn's situation where sometimes when you're the youth guy, you're not considered real staff. That's just the youth pastor.
Yeah.
And so, it's almost like we just need somebody. Now it's interesting, because here's Glenn, you're 52, still working with youth, which by the way is, I think that's awesome. Don't ever let somebody say, if you're a youth pastor, now you got to become a pastor. That's the natural progression. No, you be what you are and what you're called to be. And if you're called to be a youth pastor until you're 70, I think God will equip you and still use you in that. And so, we need that outlet. We need that person that we can trust, not for a gossip session, not for that, but for the opportunity for us to say, hey, am I doing what's right?
Right.
To encourage each other. When I hear some of the things that you're doing, it encourages me to go back to my church and say, hey, let me get fired up about this, or let me get fired up about that, or let me try this, or maybe I need to back off of that, or I'm not handling that situation. Also having somebody in your life that can look at you and say, hey, Glenn, you're screwing up. Maybe have you thought, we were discussing one thing and we're talking about some staffing issues, and I'm thinking, well, they ought to understand me and how I do things. And Glenn's like, well, not everybody has the same gifting. So it shifted my thinking even in that. So guys, I encourage you to get somebody outside your church that you can talk to, maybe out of your community, outside your denomination, because even inside your own denomination, sometimes you're afraid it's going to go up the ladder,
Right.
what you say or what you do, be held against you or something like that. Obviously, you don't want it to be that way, but sometimes it can be. So, so as we begin this relationship anew and afresh between us, Glenn, what do you see as maybe some of the needs, some of the desires, some of the wants? Where do you envision this kind of meeting for us continuing to go?
I think it's just it'll be an opportunity for us to encourage each other, especially if we're dealing with a situation and maybe we want to think outside the box to have someone to bounce that off of, and not worry about if we're gonna not worry about criticism, or if maybe that's too expensive or whatever it may be. I just spit on you. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay.
It is what it is. I think we've showered naked before together in college.
Okay.
We played basketball together. That's not anyway. Let's move on.
But yeah. So anyway, so this whole idea of getting being able to bounce things off of each other and all that is really good. As you were talking though, one of the things is that we love going to like conferences, right?
Yeah.
Professional conferences, ministry conferences, and all that. And they're fun. And one of the fun things about them is to be able to hear different ideas and to maybe meet up with people that are new. But what this does, reconnecting with the past, is it's almost like a free conference in a way. Maybe there isn't going to be cool music. There could be, but
I got a radio here in the Jeep. We can hit play on.
But the thing is, though, because that's how I'm feeling right now. I feel energized and ready to head back, home and use some of these ideas that we talk about. So it's just it's another way to not only to be accountable, but to be energized, professionally as well.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of pastors, especially in churches, small churches, it's an opportunity to have a friendship.
Yep.
It's hard having true, honest friendships. Not that you lie, not that you put on a fake face in front of your church, but just to know that you don't necessarily need anything from me. I don't need anything from you other than the friendship. And I think sometimes when we have friends inside the church, there's always that, well, I'm still your pastor type feeling, And so it's just honest communication, friendship, and I think that's valuable. So I just want to encourage y'all in small churches, you don't have a staff or whatever, or maybe it's a minimal staff and you feel lonely, make sure you build some good solid relationships, meet regularly, and encourage each other. Really, that it's so important that you do that. And so that's my encouragement for y'all today or this week. And so this has just been another episode of Small Church. By the way, hi to all of our homies back at Bernard College. Word up.